this morning with the sunrise in my eyes. My rock sweeter, meet the one I love. I don't know how, don't know why, but I've been toasting all my life. Oh, it's sweeter. I've been toasting all my life.
Welcome to Phillip Island, Victoria in Australia. What a setting we have for this great sporting contest, the Little Penguin Sea to Dune race. Nervous moments always as they gather on the beach, the tension mounting, and away they go. There's the defending champion, wearing his familiar navy blue and white, great waddling style. Another pre-race favourite though, losing touch with the pack. Maybe that's why. A few too many fish in the day's feeding. There's a familiar face, Skip McIntyre, 8 times a champion back in the 90s, a very successful coach now, keeping a keen eye on proceedings. This the leading group, 1 or 2 still able to put on a show for the camera, others just ploughing straight over it. Some resorting to shortcuts. Sad that cheating has crept into this beautiful sport. The judges will have a look at that. But up at the front, the pace is relentless, closing in on those sand dunes that will offer a bed for the night. The fatigue starting to tell. Who's got the finishing kick up on the outside? What a turn of pace from that one, whichever one it is. No answer from the rest, and he takes victory. What a win. There we are, into the Burrow, building an extension with his winnings, and back tomorrow to try and defend his title here on Phillip Island.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and thank you for tuning in to Live Penguin TV. My name is Ranger Steven. I'm going to be your host tonight. I'm going to be controlling the cameras. I'm going to be showing you all our penguins crossing the beach, and I'm going to be hopefully telling you lots of interesting stories tonight. And joining me, we also have the wonderful Ranger T.
Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Penguin Live TV. So yeah, I'm Ranger T. I'll be checking on all of your questions on YouTube, and I really want to get some difficult questions so we can stump Stephen tonight. If you're on Facebook, don't panic. We will be getting some rangers answering those questions over the next 24 hours. And happy International Cheetah Day. See if we can see some cheating penguins going around the racecourse up the Penguin Highway tonight. Have fun, everybody.
Wonderful. Thanks, T. So as T mentioned, feel free to put your questions on YouTube or Facebook. T is going to be monitoring those. We'll try and answer as many as we can. And if you're wondering who that person is above me on the Penguin Highway, that's Sue. She was with me last night helping to answer the questions. She's working on Penguins Plus Stand, and she's wandering around having a bit of a chat to all of our guests there, making sure that they know about our penguins and what to expect for the night. Now, our penguins are not too far away. We have seen a few on our water's edge, so we might go and have a bit of a look across our beach and see if we can spot any. And while we're scanning across this beautiful beach, I want to take this moment to acknowledge the land that we are viewing the penguins from, or broadcasting the penguins from. And this is Phillip Island, also known as Malal to the Bunurong. And the Bunurong, we acknowledge them as the traditional custodians of this land. We pay our respects to their elders, both past, present, and emerging. And as always, put a bit of a comment where put in the comments who the traditional custodians are of the land where you are viewing from. Let us know where you're watching from. And it'll be really good to see how many places we can get in the comments tonight. Now, counting our penguins, we have Elizabeth, who's counting our penguins. We sometimes mention Elizabeth with a great affection because she's our most experienced ranger. She's been working here for decades, and she used to live in the old housing estate that was here before we had to get rid of it to help protect our penguins. And she was one of the last people to get rid of her house because she knew how to live with the penguins carefully to make sure they were okay. And she used to just be able to walk to work here, which I'm pretty jealous of. For the rest of us, it's a bit of a drive to get here. All right, we got some penguins on the water's edge. How fantastic is that? So we are watching these penguins thanks to the Phillip Island Nature Parks. It is a not-for-profit organization, and here at the Nature Parks, we are a conservation organization. So all of the money we make from the sales of tickets or merchandise or food and drinks, all of those profits are going back into conservation work, back into a lot of research, and back into a bit of education. And it's really going back into helping our little penguins that we can see on the screen right now. So for any of you who have not seen this live stream before and wondering, what am I looking at here? You are looking at our lovely little penguins that live here in Australia. These little penguins are waiting to come home tonight. And this is the first group that we have on the water's edge. And our penguins, they always come out after sunset. And the reason for that is because they are in fact so small. They're about 33 centimeters tall, roughly a foot in height, and they weigh around 1 kilogram, or just over 2 pounds. Because they're the smallest penguins in the world, they're also the only ones who only come out at nighttime, because the other species of penguins, they don't have to worry so much about birds of prey coming to snag them on land, whereas our penguins, they do. So if they come out in the daytime, there might be some large, hungry birds flying around that would take these guys home for dinner or for lunch, depending on when they're outside. So our penguins, over the generations, have learned that it's not safe to come outside in the daytime. They're safest in the water or at home under cover. So that's why they're coming out when it's getting a little bit dark. It's still a little bit light. These penguins are a little bit earlier than last night. Last night our penguins crossed at, was it 9 o'clock? 9:02, I believe, was the time our penguins crossed last night.
It sure was.
It's about 5 to 9 right now, so these are some eager penguins getting ready to go home quickly, which is good news for us. Hopefully there'll be some more penguins following behind them. All right. So do we have any questions so far from our viewers, T?
Probably the most important question of the night is, how many penguins did we have last night? So we've had a couple of really good guesses already. So Linda guessed 859. Beverly guessed 935. I reckon Beverly would get the chocolate if she was betting on our penguin lotto tonight, because she picked 935 and we actually had 953 penguins last night. So the numbers are going back up again, which is really, really good.
Wonderful. So some really good guesses from those who watched last night, wondering how many penguins crossed our beach. And as I said, Elizabeth is counting our penguins tonight. And I had a chat with her before the stream, and she says she's convinced she's going to count more than 1,000 tonight. She likes to get the big numbers. Not that she cheats or anything, but she's going to have words with the penguins to make sure that they come home in numbers tonight. So hopefully we'll get lots to see on the screen. Now I see this one little waddle of penguins that are coming across the screen about just above my head, and another group of penguins, a raft of penguins, has come to the water's edge with another raft swimming in behind them. You can see those little heads popping out of the water in the distance behind them. They are coming to land. Looks a little bit bigger, this group that's behind. They're checking out, making sure that scouting party ahead of them gets across the beach safely. Let's have a look at this little group of penguins as they rush across the sand. And maybe put in the comments how many penguins you think are in this first group. We'll try to get the camera into focus. It's having a little bit of difficulty with these penguins. That's a bit better. There we go. So Elizabeth still hasn't called a start to the count. That doesn't mean she hasn't seen them or anything. It just means she's waiting for these penguins to cross enough of the beach that she's sure they're not going to run all the way back to the water. We always have to be very careful when we call a start to the count, because if you call a start too early and something scares the penguins, they run back to the water, they go back to the safety of the beach. But once they cross that point of no return, these penguins are pretty much guaranteed to come all the way across the beach. And Elizabeth has just determined that they've hit that point. They're far enough across the beach. And she's also given a bit of a count as to how many penguins are in this first group. So we have an official start at 8:57 tonight, which is very exciting. And maybe put in the comments how many penguins you think are in this first group. We'll wait for them to get all the way to the rocks, and then we'll give the number to you live on air. See if you can be one of our penguin counters. All right. I'm keeping the camera nice and stable for you guys, giving you the best chance at seeing the penguins. A few of them are going to disappear behind my screen. Let me move the camera a bit so you get a nice clear view. There we go. So start counting like crazy. Let us know how many penguins you think are in this first group. Any good guesses yet so far, T?
We've had a few guesses of 22. We've had a couple of guesses of 25.
I think there's a few more than 25. Well, those are some good guesses.
There are some very good guesses.
Yeah. Let's have a look. All right, what did Elizabeth call over the radio for how many penguins are in this first group, T?
I missed that one, I'm sorry.
I believe I heard it. I think it was 47 was what Elizabeth said. So she reckons 47 penguins in that first group. I was talking when Elizabeth said that, so hopefully I didn't get the number wrong, and hopefully it wasn't, 27, 37. But I believe she said 47. And if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. I'm sure a few of you eagle-eyed counters would be better positioned to let us know the exact number. We're a bit lucky. We get a nice bird's eye view of our penguins, nice up and close view of our penguins. Poor Elizabeth, she's in the skybox a long ways away, desperately trying to count these penguins through a pair of binoculars. And while she's counting that one group, there's probably another big group right behind them, so she doesn't have too much time to turn it around and count this group. There we go. This one's almost double the size of the last one. Some really good numbers tonight. Oh, there we go. That's more than double the numbers. I just heard Elizabeth over the radio call out the numbers, so I'll give you a bit of a hint. It's definitely more than double the last group, so let us know how many penguins you think are in this group. Go big. It's a nice big group coming across our beach tonight. It's very tricky to count them while they're scrambling all over these rocks, because you might think you've got a penguin and it ducks behind a rock. It slips and trips and falls, and another penguin will pop up around it. Sometimes you might not be able to get every single penguin, but I do know Elizabeth has counted all those penguins at the back as well that haven't hit the rocks. She's going to consider them all the same group, even though there's a little bit of distance between them. Fantastic. What a great night to see our penguins. I hope you've all been enjoying the week I've been spending with you, broadcasting the penguins home. Ooh, we got some penguins coming up the highway. Love to see this. Now, I know it's been, I think, 5 nights in a row that I've been broadcasting the penguins, and I know Sky's going to be on tomorrow night, and she's really excited to get back onto the camera and share the penguins with you. Let's get these guys going around. They're really in a hurry tonight on their journey home. Our little penguins are really getting into the breeding season. Sorry, just having a little bit of a wiggle with the camera controls. And there they go, off to the races. Oh, that one penguin at the back is trying to catch up. They do like to stay together in these waddles of penguins, in these groups of penguins, as they're getting ready to come home. Oh, fantastic. All right, let's switch back to the beach. There's a little penguin over there. Is that a penguin? Yeah, that's a penguin just running across the beach in a strange way. All right. And there they go, scrambling all over the rocks. Fantastic. I love watching these guys just cruising over these rocks. They're not stopping at all tonight. They seem to be on a real journey home. We'll have to see if any... Ooh, that guy had a bit of a tumble off the left side of the screen. Shake himself dry. He's fine. Our penguins are used to their slips, trips, and falls. And they're posing in front of all of our viewers here tonight, the people who've come down to see our penguins live in person, getting that front row bird's eye view of the penguins, if you will. And it's a pretty great show happening right now at the Penguin Parade. We got these lovely penguins getting ready to do a big journey up the hill. We really do split these penguins off into two pathways. These penguins are going up a steeper slope up the hill right at the start of the journey. The penguins down below that we see, will eventually see coming around the Penguin Highway. Most of them do live at the top of the hill as well, and they'll be taking a bit more of a longer way up the hill, a bit more of a gentle slope. Here we go. They seem to be coming on the Penguin Highway. Let's get these guys into view. Fantastic. Just look at these guys go. They're not slowing down for anything. They're really on a mission to get back home. Some of these guys are getting ready for the breeding season. Oh, try them on camera. You can move a bit faster than that. And some of them have babies at home that they're trying to feed. So they might have some eggs at home. A lot of our penguins are still on eggs. And some of those eggs have started to hatch. And they're getting ready to really raise their chicks. So the mom and dad both take turns at raising their chicks equally. Doesn't really matter who's at home with the babies or not. They're going to keep the babies warm. The other parent's going to be out in the ocean. So let's say mom's out in the ocean catching lots of fish. She's going to try and eat tons of fish to fill her belly and bring home enough food for our babies. For their babies, I should say. Whoa, really big groups coming across. That's just fantastic. And then when mom gets home, back to the burrow, and she feeds the babies, the next morning, it's dad's turn to go into the ocean. He's been getting hungry over the last few days, waiting for mom to return. And he's going to go into the ocean and catch as many fish as he can. Well, it doesn't seem like there's any more. Let's switch back to the other camera. And then he'll keep turning. And mom and dad keep swapping positions until the babies are a bit older, a bit able to, well, what we say is they're old enough to thermoregulate, old enough to keep themselves warm. So mom and dad don't have to be at home to keep them warm. And then both mom and dad go into the ocean. And they bring as much food as they can into their bellies, and they come home as often as they can. Sometimes on a great night, mom and dad both come home on the same night, and the baby gets lots of food. But sometimes mom might come home and dad might come home the next day, but there should be a steady stream of food for those really growing, hungry baby penguins. It doesn't take long for our babies to grow up big and strong. After about 2 months of hatching, and 2 months after they hatch, they will roughly be ready to head into the ocean. We say around 9 weeks is about the average for a penguin chick to grow and up and fledge. But it can be, 7 weeks if it's a really quick growth for the babies. And it can take sometimes up to 12 weeks for a baby penguin to leave home. There's no real firm answer to how long the chicks stay with their parents. Being nature, these things are always up for a bit of flexibility. How are we doing for questions, T? We got any really tricky ones?
Not a really tricky one, but I think there's one that we haven't really spoken much about lately.
Okay.
Has any ranger been involved in rescuing penguins from an oil spill?
Have any of us been involved in rescuing penguins from an oil spill? Well, personally, I haven't, and I've been here for, I think, 5 or 6 years now. I believe Elizabeth would have been around when the oil spill happened in, was 2001, I think was the date.
Yep,
Camera
and
focus.
Graham, one of our other rangers, definitely.
Graham Bergen, yeah,
he
he's,
actually reported the big one.
That's right. Graham is a notorious surfer out here. So I may have mentioned this oil spill story in previous sessions. And this happened around 2001. Oh, not seeing any penguins there. Let's swap cameras again. So we mentioned that some surfers were out in the water and they reported oil out on the water early in the morning. And Graham, being a notorious surfer around here, was one of the first people to report it because he worked with the penguins. He knows how dangerous oil is for penguins, so he reported it to us. And that was able to mobilize our crew, our volunteers, and our staff to be able to set up areas where we could help to capture the penguins who were covered in oil and treat them. So we do have a couple of rangers who are still around. I know Graham's been here for, well, it feels probably like 40 years as well, 30, 40 years. He's been here a long time.
35, I believe.
There we go. 35 years is roughly how long Graham's been here. I've been dying to get him back out as a parade ranger here on our boardwalks again, because I think that's where he started working here a long time ago. And he's worked pretty much every job here. If there's a man who knows about penguins and shearwaters, it's that man. I like to pester him with all my difficult questions too. All right, let's head back to the beach. We'll see if any more groups of penguins are going to join these lovely penguins on the rocks. It's fantastic to see them. And yeah, it's just great to really spot what our penguins are doing on the rocks as they preen each other. Sorry, as they preen themselves. Sometimes they preen each other. It's just fantastic. I love this behavior that our penguins do. They do it night after night. It might look a little boring for those of you who are tuning in night after night, but this is such important behavior for our penguins, this preening behavior. It really helps to keep their feathers waterproof. It helps to keep themselves healthy, and it also helps to keep them looking very attractive to any potential mates. I don't think any females are going to be wanting to be getting involved with a scruffy looking penguin, because a scruffy looking penguin is not going to be as effective as a well-groomed penguin. And a few of these lovely preened penguins have already made their way off the resting rocks on their journey home. Let's see if we can keep them into shot as we pan around with them. There we go. Lovely.
Now, I've got one other question for you, Stephen.
Another question?
Very, very cool question. Can we adopt any other animals besides our little penguins?
What a great question. So T's got our little penguin with a plushie, with a jumper on, a penguin plushie with a jumper on. And if you wanted to donate to our Penguin Foundation, which is our charity organization, you're more than welcome to. And on the Penguin Foundation page, there's a link in the description. There is different options for adopting different animals, not just our penguins, which are the stars of the show, we realize that, but you can also adopt shearwaters or bandicoots. There's lots
koalas.
Or koalas. There's lots of animals you can adopt. It's a symbolic adoption. You won't get to take them home with you, but it is a lot of fun to adopt these animals, because all the proceeds that go to our Penguin Foundation do go to help all the animals that we take care of here on Phillip Island, including our penguins. Some of these penguins have scruffier feathers than others. I always like to say that the scruffier penguins are actually probably the younger penguins. The older penguins, the ones who have lived a long time, they're much more aware of how important it is to groom their feathers, and they take care of themselves. They're more experienced out on the ocean, whereas our younger penguins, they're learning how to fish on the ocean. They get battered around by rocks. They might not be taking as good care as they should of their feathers. So it might be a bit counterintuitive. When you see a scruffy penguin, you might think that's a very old penguin. Look at how worn and torn his feathers are. Every single year, our penguins get a brand new coat of feathers. So come around, let's say Easter time, they've all finished their molt by that time roughly. All of our penguins will have a brand new coat of feathers. They're going to be looking very smart indeed. And you won't be able to tell the difference between a 20-something-year-old penguin or a 2-year-old penguin. They're going to look pretty much identical. All right, love this nice big group on the rocks. I'm going to pan out to the beach, see if there's any more penguins that might be coming across. Oh, yeah, a little group coming across there. That's great to see. Is there any big groups in the distance? I haven't heard anything over the radio. Oh, there's another group. I just know that they do keep coming out. Lovely. Another nice solid group of penguins coming out of the ocean. I reckon we're going to have another good night of numbers. Elizabeth might be right. We might get more than 1,000 penguins tonight, which will be great for everybody to see.
I think Elizabeth just wants to win the Penguin Lotto.
She wants to win the Penguin Lotto. Well, I'm always the most optimistic of all the Rangers when I guess. I always guess about 2,000 penguins are going to come out unless we're getting really good numbers. Then it might even go a little crazy and go up to 3,000 penguins in a night. I don't think we're at 2,000 tonight though, so the chocolate bar is definitely not mine this evening. I'll have to wait for another night, see if those penguin numbers start to rise. I love the waddling our penguins do as they're crossing the beach, crossing the highway. They really do have a bit of a shimmy to them as they motor along, strutting their stuff all along the highway. Now it's the breeding season, so our penguins are definitely on the cruise, keeping an eye out for any attractive potential mates. And as we say, our penguins are socially monogamous, which means that when they're together and they have a baby together in a pair, both the mom and dad are going to raise those babies together until they grow up as best they can. But they are sexually promiscuous, which means that they might have a bit of fun on their walk home. And when I say they're promiscuous, our penguins are very promiscuous little creatures. Sometimes they like to have fun up to 30 times in a night. So you might see some of that fun behavior even down here on the stands. Not always. They usually wait till they get to the privacy and the safety of the colony before they really engage in that behavior. There's nothing more dangerous than getting a bit distracted in a slightly more high-risk area. But our penguins, they sure do know how to have fun at night here at the Penguin Parade. Oh, and they keep coming home. Wonderful. I pity Elizabeth trying to count this group. They're all spread out all over the place. When they're in a nice big tight group, it's really a lot easier to count them because we know, how big a size 5 penguins would fit in your binoculars. You can say, well, there's roughly 5 penguins in that small area, 5, 10, 15, 20. But when they're spread out so far apart like this, you can't really get any high density counting happening. You have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 as fast as you can. So that's a tricky group for Elizabeth to count tonight.
So I've got a question for you, Stephen.
Great, a question, yep.
How sensitive are penguin feet?
How sensitive are penguin feet? An interesting question. The best way to answer that is penguin feet are not sensitive at all. They don't have nerve endings in their feet. So penguins, they don't like to expose their skin to the cold water because the water is cold around Phillip Island. Even during our peak summer months, most people who go surfing here, they still wear a wetsuit. It's quite chilly. And our penguins, they don't want to, feel the cold all the time. So the only places that the water will actually touch their skin is their feet and maybe around their eyes and their beak kind of area. But not too much area of their skin touches the water because they've got that waterproof coating of feathers around them. So in order for our penguins not to get cold feet out in the ocean, they just don't have nerve endings in their feet, so they don't really feel the cold in their toes. And this is useful for when they're out on the ocean, so they don't feel those frigid waters, but it can be quite dangerous because if we have bushfires in the area, our penguins' feet, if they stand over burning embers, they're not going to realize that their feet are burning and smoldering. And they're not going to feel that, which is very dangerous because if a penguin's foot does get damaged, it is important to them. They don't want to lose their feet. They need it to dig their burrows and walk home when they come back to land. So anytime we have bushfires in the nearby vicinity that might spread over, or maybe some embers spread over to Phillip Island, we have to be very careful, keep an eye on our penguins. Because even if we don't have complete bushfires, even a smoldering ember can cause damage to our local wildlife, to our lovely little penguins. And you do remember last summer we had lots of bushfires here in Australia. And we did some really good work here at the Phillip Island Nature Parks. We took in some of the koalas from those bushfire affected areas. And we brought them here and we took care of them. And a lot of them are getting released. A lot of them have been released. A lot of them are getting released very soon. It's been a fantastic, really feel-good story for us. And our penguins have, our koalas have definitely appreciated the extra care that we've been able to provide to them. And unfortunately, these bushfires are becoming a little bit stronger, a little bit more common. And this is one of those things that happen when climate change is starting to get worse and worse every year. And there are ways that we're trying to help reduce the effects of climate change here at the Penguin Parade. I know Dr. Dan, who's basically our head penguin researcher, fantastic man. He's been with us for 40 years. He's developed some new penguin boxes, penguin burrows, that might help to protect our penguins from those extreme heats until the world can start to tackle our climate change problem. Now, unfortunately for our penguins, any temperatures over 35 degrees is a little too hot for them. Ooh, this camera is not focusing very well. Let's see if I can get it. All right, I'm going to show you one of our current penguin boxes. This is the model of penguin boxes that we've been using since, I think, at least 40 years, maybe 50 years. I'm not sure how long we've been using this design of boxes. They've been around for a long time. It's a very standard box. It has a little narrow entryway. It opens up into a big box in the back for a penguin to stand up in and maybe have their babies inside. A bit of a small room. This is basically what a natural penguin burrow would look like. But as you can see, there's no real shelter to this box. There's no shade overhead. So if it's a 35-degree day and the sun is beating down on the top of this burrow, on top of this box, it's going to turn into a little bit of an oven, which can be quite dangerous for our penguins. They might get too hot, and if they get too hot, they will pass away. Heat exhaustion is a very real problem for our penguins. And so with climate change increasing our temperatures over year after year, we are aware that this is going to become a bit of a problem for our penguins. So our Dr. Dan has developed, I think, 4 new designs for penguin burrows, and I don't remember each design. I saw them a while ago and I've forgotten most of the designs, but my favorite is one that's got a bit of a peaked roof. So you got the box like you have there with a peaked roof off top. It offers a bit of shade down onto the actual roof of the burrow, so the sun doesn't heat it up as much. Another interesting design is a bit of a chimney shape that helps to get some of the extra heat out. And I think what we did realize is that penguins prefer the more natural approach. A box that is shaded under some bushes, under a big tree, that shade will offer the most protection to them. But yeah, we're definitely trying to find ways to help fight the climate change problem that we're facing around the world. And it's becoming more and more of a problem year after year. We're just going to see worse things happening. You may be wondering, what are some of the things that we can do? And what can we do to help fight climate change? It's a really big question, isn't it? And I like to think that they've been a bit of an insight already. And what we can do is during this whole pandemic, most of us have been locked away at home. A lot of us have been working from home, which is a very new experience. And people have been reporting around the cities that the smog has disappeared from their cities. The air is cleaner because less people are driving to work. And if that's something that we can continue, maybe more people working from home, or maybe if you take a bicycle to work or take public transport and reduce our emissions, that could help get our city air cleaner and cleaner, which would benefit the whole globe. But there's lots of things we can do to help fight climate change.
You can even turn a light off when you're leaving a room.
Turn the light off when you're leaving a room. Turn the heating off if it's something you don't need at the moment, or the air conditioning. But I like to say there's so many things that you can do. Maybe focus on one thing that you can do to make a change. You don't want to overwhelm yourself trying to do everything perfectly. Nobody does everything perfectly. We all have areas of weakness, myself included, all of our rangers as well. We do our best, but what we do is we try and focus on the things that we can change. Oh, there's a bit of a brush-tailed possum in the distance down there coming towards our penguins. Get that guy in view. It almost looks like a wallaby from this distance, but it's too small to be a wallaby. That's a brush-tailed possum. But a lot of our rangers have started using those bamboo toothbrushes, which is a really good thing. because what I find interesting is that every single toothbrush I have used in my life, which has basically been plastic until very recently, every single one of those toothbrushes that I've thrown away are still in the world. They haven't disappeared. They haven't gone anywhere. They haven't decomposed. Plastic does not disappear. So if you can do one thing to help reduce the amount of plastic you use, it does make a really big impact to the environment. All right. Oh, that possum, I thought he was going to continue walking on. It looks like he's just stuck there. I'm sure not too many of you are too interested in possums, especially if you're from Australia. They're quite common. But for our visitors who are viewers from overseas, he's a brush-tailed possum and a nice big group of penguins that's going by as well. A lovely little native animal. They're lovely until they get into the roof of your house and start scratching all night long. Fantastic. All right, so we just have a few minutes left before we're going to wrap up for the night. So we're going to get T to ask me another couple of really difficult questions. I haven't had too many really tricky ones. Hopefully we got some interesting ones. Any good ones, T?
Not really a difficult question, but an interesting one.
Oh, great.
Especially for the newer viewers.
Mm-hmm.
What sort of technologies have we been using to study our penguins?
Oh, geez, that's a big question. I could write a doctorate on all the technologies we've used on our penguins. So as I mentioned in a previous stream, when I was talking about our researchers a little bit more, this was back in the 1950s, 60s, 70s. I can't remember the exact date they did this. When we wanted to brand a penguin, we wanted to mark a penguin because we wanted to know if boys and girls were coming out of the ocean and how many boys were coming home versus how many girls were coming home. We had no way of identifying our penguins just by sight. We didn't have flipper bands back in that day, so we spray painted our penguins. So we used to spray paint our penguins to figure out if it was the boys coming home or the girls coming home. And we gave the girls a pink bra and the boys a blue briefs a bit lower down to identify what gender they were when they were crossing the beach. We upgraded to using flipper bands, which gave us their date of birth, their bit of an ID code to let us know who they were. And now we use microchips, and now we use GPS trackers, and technology has gotten a lot better these days. So there's a lot more we can use technology-wise to get an idea of what our penguins are doing. And it's really easy to know what a penguin's doing on land because we can just wander around on land and find them where they live, keep track of them. That's easy for us to do. But once they get out into the ocean, it gets so much harder to track them because as soon as they dive underwater, they're out of sight and we might not be able to find them, surface again. We might lose them. So we need GPS trackers to go out with them onto the ocean. We'll track where they go for a single trip out. We'll retrieve the GPS when they come back to land, log the data that it's given us, and let us know what their fishing paths are, where they're going to look for food. We also use dive depth recorders to see how far down our penguins dive underwater. And recently, we just managed to put on something like a GoPro on the back of one of our penguins. This happened a few years ago, I think. It's not quite a GoPro, it's more of like a Go Penguin Pro, is what our Andre likes to call it. He's a researcher who decided to develop that one. And using this Go Penguin Pro, ooh, something spooked you, we found out a very interesting tidbit of information about our penguins, because we knew what penguins used to eat by analyzing their poo samples, as Jordan and Megan love to talk about their poo stories. But we do learn a lot about our penguins from that. And we collect the bones in those poo samples to figure out what fish our penguins are eating. But it was only when we started using this Go Penguin Pro that we found out that our penguins are eating sea jellies. Because sea jellies don't really have bones, so we had no idea that that was part of their diet until we saw a penguin gobbling up a sea jelly out on the ocean. And now we're trying to figure out, ooh, how much of the diet is composed of sea jellies, we wonder. So technology has been helping us a lot to figure out new questions to ask about our penguins. There's always so much more to learn, which is the best part about being a ranger here. The more knowledge you get, the more questions you get to ask. There's more to learn, which is one of the best parts about life in general. Great question. Any more questions? I'm sure I've missed a bunch of technology we've used around here.
Just one quick question before we go.
Mm-hmm.
Have we ever seen an albino penguin?
Ooh, an albino penguin. Not of a little penguin. I sure haven't. I'd have to ask Elizabeth or Graham or Dr. Dan, those who have been here for decades. They might be able to tell us. Oh, I forgot to change the camera, sorry. They might be able to tell us if they have seen any. I personally definitely have not. I haven't heard of an albino penguin in the area. I do know that there are albino penguins in the world. They've been photographed of different species of penguins. So yeah, they're very rare, and an albino penguin would definitely have a disadvantage as opposed to the other penguins, because these penguins have the perfect camouflage out on the ocean. They've got those dark blue feathers, and they're swimming on the water that blends in with the dark blue ocean colors, which means that if you're a bird of prey flying overhead, you're going to have a hard time seeing a little penguin that's swimming on the water, because they're going to blend in so well with the background. And same thing if you're a seal underneath, you got the white feathers, and if you're looking towards the sky, if you're scuba diving underwater, it's a brilliantly bright background, so you got a white feathers on a white background, which makes it very tricky to spot the penguins on either side. But if you're an albino penguin, you're going to be quite visible to those birds of prey. And our little penguins, they need to stay hidden out on the ocean because they are so small. So while yes, there probably have been some albino little penguins, it happens across lots of different species of animals, I don't think we've ever observed one personally. But I'll have to ask our researchers that one to get a definite answer for you. That's a great question. Oh, and with that great question, we might wrap it up for the night. It looks like our penguins have mostly arrived home. I don't see there's too many more penguins coming home. Nice little group here on the beach. And as our penguins are heading on their journey home, do want to invite you to maybe reach out and help our little penguins. You can go to our Penguin Foundation website. Just click the link in the description. You'll see options to adopt penguins. You can also visit our store if you wanted to buy one of these cute plushies with the jumpers on them. The Christmas deadline for ordering those, I think, is the 12th of December?
It sure is.
Yeah, so you've got maybe a week or so more left to try and get these in if you wanted a nice little Christmas present to send to the family. And yeah, if you want to keep tuning in night after night, we're going to be doing this live stream for a little bit longer. I have no doubt that we're going to be ending in the near future. As we're getting busier and busier on the stands, we're starting to need our rangers like myself and like T and all the rest of us that you have seen on the screen. We need to get out onto those boardwalks and help to protect our penguins from all the curious people that are desperate to say hello to them and try and get as close as they can and want to know all they can about our penguins. So we invite you to...
And we want to talk to the people as well.
Of course, we want to talk to the people. We want to tell them all we know about penguins. So we do invite you to come and visit us here at the Penguin Parade. You can purchase our tickets online. Come see our penguins in person. Get that smell that you can't experience live on Penguin TV. And you can't hear the sounds that our penguins make. You just have to hear our poor imitations of our penguin sounds. It's so much more entertaining to listen to the real, authentic version of it. But on that note, we might say goodbye to you. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we might finish off with a bit of a huck tonight, T.
I think we should.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Huck, huck, huck.